Hello, I'm Jeff Gutterman. Welcome to Build a Butter World. You know, I told my students at the beginning of this year, when I looked out and saw all the amazing kids, I said to them, after you leave this art room, when you graduate, you are never going to be in a room with this many awesome, amazing, inspirational people, probably for the rest of your life. You know, you're going to go on to college, you're going to be in college classes, probably with a bunch of duds, then you're going to get a stinking job, you'll have a bunch of duds at your job. The quality of student that is in this studio art class is just exceptional. Everyone has an epic, amazing story, a life full of creativity and just amazingness, and I just love them all, and you guys are great, and I want the world to know, and that's why we came up with Build a Butter World.
So, like, how do you guys in your future feel like you will make a better world?
I recycle.
Recycle?
Yeah. One thing that I really plan on doing, especially when I'm older, is I plan on, this sounds like really generic, but I really do plan on traveling and going around, seeing where help is needed, because I live a very comfortable life here, and I know that that's not the truth in a lot of other places, and I really hope that one day we can come together to change that. But I hope that one day I met that through traveling around, I can make a difference in some small manner.
How do you feel that you make the world better?
If I see someone is upset or distressed or anything, I'll go up to them and let them know that they're not alone and try and make your day better.
How do you feel you make the world better?
I feel I make the world better by trying to make people happy.
You know, one step at a time, like just doing something nice for like one person or for another, kind of like making it an ongoing chain, like, you know, one kind act can lead to another, and hopefully like how that could just like.
I'm Ella, well, Gabrielle, but everybody calls me Ella. I'm a senior, getting out of here pretty soon, and I'm a mixed medium artist. My mom's an artist, so I've always had art stuff and supplies around the house that I've just messed with, but I think I made my first coherent piece maybe around kindergarten, first grade. Usually when I paint, I kind of go a lot darker for some reason, but I like to kind of explore like shadows and light within such depth. Like the mural I was working on outside has a lot of dark colors as it's back that progressively gets lighter. And like even with something like this, it's super dark and then gets pretty light. So that's kind of my way of playing with shadows and yeah. I like learning a lot of different cultures along with the languages. So by learning about each different language, I'm immersing myself in the cultures. So what artistic styles have influenced different time periods in whatever culture I'm learning about. I like to take different bits and pieces of it that I enjoy. I was looking, I forget who, I think it was Renault the other day, and it was just such beautiful imagery that I wanted to maybe see if I could put that into a drawing style instead of just something in painting and just kind of mix it and play with it. Okay, so this piece right here is my first time actually working with charcoal, and I really enjoyed doing that because it was something for me to learn more about, and I think changing what mediums I work with, because I typically stay with like paint and pencil, that made it a challenge for me to work with. And then I got into markers recently too, because that's just been something I've doodled with. But here I've done a bunch of different colleges that my friends and I have applied to. My sketchbook has some few, and it's really about that. I think pencils kind of, I end up drawing on my worksheets more than I do my notebook, which I'm trying to change, but gotten into writing some poetry stuff too down, so. Oh, so my map has come quite a long way. It was folded over, I think, at one point, so I had to kind of do some surgery on it. But I've taken the idea of people meeting in different places at different times and smushing it onto a map. So each little chunk over in here has different themes, different sections in time. Ashley Graham's mouth is just randomly on it. And in different streets I've painted roses because flowers are kind of my thing that I normally like to paint and look at. So I put some flowers, little mushed up roses in between the cul-de-sacs and the streets and the counties. I'm really proud of it.
My name is Tully Weinb. I'm a senior and I work best with photography or collaging and painting, doodling. I liked digital photography for a long time, but then I went to the summer camp when I was 13 in Maine, and I took a film darkroom class, and I got really into that. And I was really sad when I went back home because I didn't know where to do it. But then I found out about a place in New York City, and I started taking classes there, and I've been really into it ever since. Well, I think it's I think a lot of my art represents the same things, although photography features a lot more day-to-day things because I like to take candid photography, especially of my friends. But I would say my art all just kind of features things that appear in my life, like most people's. I think there's central subjects are definitely probably queerness shows up a lot. Whatever the inner workings of my head are, just my thoughts, because I think a lot, and sometimes I don't know what I'm thinking. So when I make art, visual thoughts. I tend to start a lot of series and never finish them, and I never have. But for my first real darkroom class, I did a project focusing on queer people, actually, I believe, and I had a lot of photos of just mostly my friends, because my friends are all queer, and I don't know, it was my first project that I ever actually kind of made a dent in, so I guess that one. I just finished this collage because Butterman was we're gonna get rid of all the National Geographics, and I was awesome. And so I don't really tend to do themes for collages unless I'm making funny ones. So I kind of just go through pages of I don't know, probably at least 50 magazines, maybe more, and just pick out the ones that mean something to me or speak to me in some way or feel like I connect to them. So that's where all these came from. These stickers are, I made a collage with them once before. I hoard my birth control pill stickers and use the days of the week for art purposes. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that I think here centered around childhood and space and religion, which is kind of strange because I'm not Christian, but whatever. And then some other nice things in there. So yeah. Okay. So this is a photo I took digitally a while ago. You know how on Instagram slime making and stuff was popular? So I was to my friend Sam, he's the primary model in all my photos, let's make slime and just put it on your body for me. You just stand in my shower, it's chill, no big deal. So we did, and it really worked horribly. We had to keep microwaving the slime, and it was just a mess, and I had to shoot in the dark so I could use flash. But this is the only good photo I got out of it, and I'm really happy with it, and I definitely want to revisit it sometime. This is Sam again. Looks like a model, it's so beautiful. That's also digital. I took that in Westfield, which is kind of just where we loiter and hang out, because there's really nothing else to do here. So yeah, that was this past summer. This is Sam again. This time in the Clark Commons, a less common idling spot, but they have the only Panera now. This is Sam, Clark Commons. They have the Panera now, so we go there. Oh, okay. This is black and white film, which is of my friend Arrow, and it's her legs.
I'm Connor Mackenzie, grade 12, and I work mostly with pencil, like pen, and digitally. I guess I've been drawing since I was a little kid, but I really started thinking about it probably around 16, and I'm 17 now.
Do you feel like at this point in your life you're the most serious about art now?
If not, definitely gearing up for it. I'm trying to get more serious about it and more into it and doing more things to improve how I can go about it.
What was like blocking you before, like your younger years of getting into art, or like keeping you from like being your most creative at this point?
If I'm being honest, it's probably a combination of just laziness and lack of focus. I like to draw. I've always liked to draw, and I've always liked to think about, like characters and things. But I'm very, very lazy, and I feel like I just didn't think too much about it. But then when I realized, I want to actually do it, I'm like, okay, well, I actually have to start practicing and trying to improve. The biggest struggle would probably be getting over my own sense of, like, I guess getting past my own criticism and being able to finish anything. I tend to be very, very critical of my own sort of stuff. I oftentimes hate my own stuff. And so the hard part is being able to get past that and being able to actually make anything. A lot of my stuff is just, it never really gets past, like, sort of chaotic sketching stage. I like characters. I like doing character design, and I like thinking about characters for, I guess, cartoon characters. I think design is one of the most important parts for a character, because it's what you can convey a lot through visual medium, and I don't know, I just like thinking about characters and how they would interact and what they would do and where they would be, and just thinking of worlds, I guess. It's, if I draw a character, I think, where would they live? What would they do? What are they like? Why do they do anything? Just getting into sort of more, I guess, thinking about a world that a character might live in,
I am the stone that the builder refused. I am the visual, the inspiration that made ladies sing the blues. I'm the spark that makes your idea bright. The same spark that lights the dark so that you can know you're not from your flight. I am the ballad in your box, the bullet in the gun, the inner glow that let you know to call your brother son. The story that just begun, the promise of what's to come. And I'ma remain a soldier till the war is won. Chop, chop, chop. Flip. Chop, chop, chop. Go flip. Chop, chop, chop. Chop, chop, chop.
Hey, I'm Michaela. I'm a senior. I kind of just like, I'm kind of just like working with like whatever's there. I kind of just like see something that I like it's like a canvas or a piece of paper, and then I kind of just work around that.
When did you first start getting into art?
I don't know. I feel like I've always been like in and out of like being interested in art like since middle school, but I never really had the time or like the resources to just do art. Like my parents aren't very, like I love my parents, don't get me wrong. They're just like not the creative type, so I never had any experiences. I mean, in middle school there was like middle school art classes, and that was a lot of fun. But I think it was like junior year when I dropped choir and I took painting, when I was just like, oh hey, this is fun, like I can work with it. And then it's kind of just been art since then. All right, well this like, I'm really not trying to say anything symbolic about my trash cans. This is from SpongeBob. You know, there's this scene where Squidward is just like, oh, I painted the bold and the brash, and then the art guy is just like, art bold and the brash more like belongs in the trash. So it's just like, why don't I paint the bold and the brash in the trash can? And so that's how this started. And I spent like way too long on this piece, and then I realized, hey, painting trash cans is kind of fun. So I just kind of went on it from there and just painted trash cans. I think there are lots of reasons why people make art. For me in particular, I like to make art because it's fun. You know, college and like high school and everything like that, it's a lot of work and it's really stressful. So it's kind of nice to just like be able to come to a class and just be as creative as I want to be, just create whatever I want to create. And that's kind of why I make the art that I do. Like, it just makes no sense. There's really no reason or rhyme for why I'm painting like a fall scene and putting a trash can in the middle of it, or why I'm painting a painting of the universe and then I just put a trash can on it. I'm kind of just, you know, art is fun. Like, people make art to express themselves. People make art to feel good about themselves. I make art because it's fun.
My name is Francesco. I'm in 11th grade and I mainly work with collaging for art. So I would say I would always like to make sculptures when I was younger. I'd always be more hands-on with my art than rather draw. And as I got older, I think I started realizing I wanted to do that again instead of just like have a pencil in my hands. And it was the fun of just like building something with pieces. And I've always liked the point of like when I was younger, I worked with clay a lot. And as I got older, I saw like I would just recycle stuff. I'm like, I want something to actually do with it. I want to make something creative out of it. So like, for example, I took magazines and National Geos and I was just like, what can I do to make it like something into one, or iTunes cards, something people use all the time, don't even realize they can make something great with it. I would say definitely, like I said, like, you know, like it's just looking at things a different way for me. Like I always did when I was younger, and I feel like that's what kind of put my art together as I got older. Like whether it was something from a candy wrapper, I would just use it and I would just be like, what can I turn this into with all the colors I had? I would say I definitely want to do something like different in a way. That's something I definitely want, and you know, I try and like do pieces that maybe like a fruit bowl is like modern, but at the same time I want to make it with my own unique twist. Okay, so I got right here, I got the Statue of Liberty made out of iTunes cards. So it says, "Within Liberty we stand." And it's kind of inspired by what's going on nowadays, but also like, you know, we all unite through like music, for example, or like we unite through like, you know, just in general as America. And then I got a fruit bowl made out of magazines. So this is all different parts of like from National Geographic. And then I got a candy wrappers doing a sunset. So there's a river in the mountains in the sunset.
Motown with your sound, you in the blink, gon' bite the dust, can't fight with us. With it's your sound, you kill it. So don't stop, get it, until you chat it, hit it. Watch the way I navigate.
Okay, so my name is Bryan Midwinter. I'm in 12th grade, so I'm a senior. And I usually work with drawing or charcoal. I've been getting into paint a lot more, like oil paint, which I think is really cool. I've been into art my whole life. I kind of drifted away from it when I got into high school because I thought it was some kind of a more feminine thing to do. But after coming out and accepting who I was, I really got into art and doing what I love. I really took to heart when Mr. Gutterman said, you know, work from life. And I'm super into fashion and, you know, textures and experimenting with different mediums. So before I applied to art school, I was like, you know, let me see what else I can do that's unique. So I, you know, went through my old clothes and I cut stuff up and I worked with, you know, things that I'm around every day, like my jeans, zippers, you know, everyday stuff and making the most of that. Okay, so this was a piece that I did of my jeans. They're my favorite pair of jeans. They had a lot of rips in them. So I thought as an observational piece I would draw them, and I really took to note like the color contrast. So blue and yellow are like opposite on the color scale. So I really try to work with colors that pop against each other and add a lot of emphasis to the work. So this is my jean piece. Behind me, I have almost like a collage of different fabric or wall hangings, and I worked from these Polaroids my dad had of my aunt. So I did a little bit of rendering of her silhouette, and I upholstered it against wallpaper just to add a little bit of contrast. And then here I have a rendering of two hands, and it has a lot of different Chinese characters around the back, and they represent chaos and opportunity, which kind of coincide with, you know, making the most of your situation. And behind me I have my piece that took me a long time to make. It was my jean piece, and I stripped up different jeans and I stitched them in the back, and then on top of the jeans I sewed on zippers, kind of little Americana manifesto idea I had going, and I think it's a nice wall hanging, or I really like it.
I'm Nina. I'm a senior, and I've done kind of anything. I really like photography, but I'm going to talk about my other stuff that I have right here. I always liked it, but probably more. I know drawing I took sophomore year is when I actually started like doing a lot more stuff, like getting into it, but I always liked art in general, and I was always pretty good at it, I guess. I'm very detailed, I guess, in terms I like to look at stuff, and I take a kind of a long time to do it. And like once I do it, I will keep fixing it a lot until I think it's right. Alright. This, I took painting and I kind of didn't know what to do. Then I kind of just started doing colors, and then this. I don't know. This.
Like on top of each other?
They're all just going to one point, basically, so it's kind of just like I mixed a bunch of colors. I don't know, I kind of just wanted to do something more fun and like that I just entertain myself by painting. Because painting, I prefer to do more like abstract type painting rather than from life, I guess. I like to draw more from life. What else do I have? Well, this is something different.
So basically I took wire and I formed it into the shape of wings, and then I covered it in tissue paper, and I made all the feathers out of paper and like cut them handmade. Then I glued them on. Then I put them on my friend. She could actually wear the wings. And I actually specifically did this for like an application for our college, but you had to take something else that you had and use that as inspiration. So I had a picture of my friend against a wall that said "free to be." So the wings are basically like freedom. When you put on the wings, you'll feel free. More like a literal interpretation. That was more something I haven't done besides drawing and painting. I actually like made it. And this, I happened to do it in like, I just started it quickly and then I ended up finishing it in like 3 days because I was just so into it. But this is just an eye painted, just experimenting with painting. This is sort of when I first started painting. I don't know, just kind of playing around. People definitely, nose is definitely one of the hardest. I know in drawing we would just look in the mirror. So I kind of just like, I look in the mirror. I like to look at things when I do them specifically. I feel like when I look at things, I look at them more like in parts, and then when I do like all together, the parts will like come together to be the whole thing, if that makes any sense at all. This is specifically like drawn from life. I would say I like to do that because like it's easy for me to like look and then like transfer it into my drawings. That specifically helps me, especially with like shadows like on the bottom of the shoe too. And specifically I have a shoe obsession and I have like 10 pairs of Vans, so I just like wanted to draw this as my still life. And then this hallway drawing, I actually really like perspective drawing. I originally was sort of into interior design, but I just like perspectives because I'm sort of into math too. I like math and it sort of utilizes that. But then once you get the lines down and everything, you can go back in, and once you add the shading is when it really, really comes together and looks like 3D and more like realistic. This I have a little story. So basically, every time I look like the clock or anything, I always see these numbers, 9, 7, and 11, like 9, 11, is always the time. So I don't know, I just did this, wanted to do something more like colorful, more like fun, more abstract, I guess. So that I just painted the eyes, and then I was originally gonna like splatter paint over it, but I just left it like that because I liked the way it looked. Oh, this. So we had to do a grid paint while drawing, but I did painting. So basically I took a picture of my friend Rhea, and then you do the grid over it, but I really focused it to, instead of doing like the curved lines, I made them all out of straight lines, so it's more like a pixelated effect, and it's really easy for me, I guess, because box by box, I like doing better, because then when you did them all together, it actually looked like the picture, which was really cool.
Okay, my name is Emma Torkeldsen. Yes. I am a senior in high school, and I mostly paint, but I also draw. I don't know, I can't swear.
I guess you can swear. It's not a single thing.
Okay. I kind of just look around. I started getting into art when I was younger. I always carried around a little book that I doodled in. And I also doodled as a way to like get at my teachers because I was kind of a jerk. Yeah, all right. I don't really have a process. I'm kind of sporadic. Sometimes I don't do art for a really long time. Sometimes I do it a lot. So in this sketchbook, this is my school sketchbook, this is where I try to work. I mostly work in color, but this is where I just fill a page a day with just crap. It could be really anything that I think of. Here's a beautiful one. This is my bald head collage with some profanities here. I tend to make friends for some reason with bald men, Mr. Gutterman being one of them, and Ritter. My current bald buddies are Ritter, Gutterman, and Cripp. So, you know how that is. So I made a little bald collage. I was going to do way more faces, but I feel like it's more fun this way. and there's little Easter eggs, like these legs, because Ritter likes old man legs. That's weird to say, but it'll make sense eventually. And then in this thing, when I was a sophomore, I saw out the window that there was a dictionary in the courtyard. So I kind of hopped out Gutterman's window when he wasn't looking, and I grabbed this, and I just started filling up the pages. Okay, well, wow, just turning to all the empty pages. I just started to fill up the pages because I really like to destroy. A lot of my artwork is destruction. Here's one of my favorite pages, just because I like the contrast and the hand coming up from wherever. I don't know. This, oh yeah, low beans. Another thing fell out. Little low beans card, and this thing that I did. Sometimes I do these and I cut them up and I use them to, I don't know, give people notes or messages. And then this one is my home sketchbook, and this is where I'll do art when I'm just bored or when I'm watching TV, namely Vikings. This is a Norwegian landscape because I like Norway and I'm from Norway. So I try to get in touch with my roots a little bit and draw landscapes. I also like to do contrast and color contrast. So I liked the very cool tones with the extremely warm red. I sound like a nerd, but you know, whatever. Color's kind of my thing. Here is an iguana outside of somebody's window. I took it off of my friend's Snapchat story. She saw an iguana out her window, so and I screenshotted it, and I decided to do a little picture because it's kind of cool. Oh, and then this is Norway too. This is Aurora Borealis on a mountain in Norway, and it took me like 40,000 years to do, and I submitted it for a scholarship, but they told me that it wasn't what they wanted, so whatever. Anything? I don't really do pieces. I just kind of mess around most days. I draw a lot of cartoon people. I wish I didn't, but I always do cartoon people instead of real people. Here is a portrait of what I wanted to look like by the time I got to college. Short hair, a lot of piercings. I'm not quite there yet, but I'll get there, hopefully.
I'm Phoebe Collins. I'm a senior, and I work in 2D, so that ends up being a lot of different things, but mostly two-dimensional. So I've always been into art since I was really little because my family's very artistic. Both my parents went to art school, and so it was just kind of a thing that I did when I was little, and we'd go to museums, and I had sketchbooks and all that kind of stuff. Like I was saying, that I have my parents who were always very artistic, and they would take me to do things, and you know, that was like a big part of growing up, was being in a very artistic house. And my grandparents too. It's just kind of a big family of artists. So I don't necessarily feel like I'm limited to one style or way that I do things. But I feel like I kind of take ideas from whatever I'm working on to the next thing that I'll do. And I'm very interested in light, so maybe that kind of goes along with why people might call it realism, but I'm just interested in light and shadow, which I think is why I like to work in black and white a lot, because that's more, it kind of just hones in on light and shadow. And even when I do work in color, you know, this is the most recent thing that I'm working on, is these postage stamps, and they're all monochromatic, so even though they're color, they're still on a scale of value more than a scale of color. I think it's just something I like to focus on. Yeah, I don't think it really has a huge, a real like a poetic kind of significance. It's just something that I'm interested in, that I work in. And I had my paper cutout piece from last year. That was kind of a different way of looking at things, because most of the pieces that I work on are additive mediums, where I'm adding on layers of charcoal or pencil or paint or whatever I'm working with. But doing the paper cutout was kind of an experiment for me in taking away to get the same kind of illustration effect, but still using light, but in a different way. And a lot of it I've done here. I did these two pieces here in studio art. No, sorry. I've got a whole bunch of things going on in my head. This one I did this year. This is the first project, where it was like a still life exercise, where we were doing objects that different people in the class brought in, and I did each of them in colored pencil, and then I kind of sewed them into what I've been calling a paper quilt. So I stitched all the pieces together. This one here is a pen and ink illustration that I did, and then I colored with Copic markers. And I did that a while ago, I can't remember, but that was just something I did on my own. I have these that I was talking about before. These are a project that I'm working on that I'm hoping to do more of. I'd like to do like 9 or 10 more. I have grand plans for this one. But this I'm trying to do a family portrait and postage stamp. These are all old family pictures, so I have like, these are my mom's parents and my dad's parents, and this is my dad's grandpa. So I'm trying to work through, thank you, trying to work through the whole family. And with this I'm using watercolor, but I'm also using the watercolor ink for pen and ink on top. So it's kind of a weird combination of watercolor, pen and ink. This was a still life I did as just an assignment for when I did a program at Cooper Union a couple years ago over the summer, and they wanted to do a still life from, I think it was 3 or 4 different perspectives, so I had to move around it as I was working. And this was the one that I had the most finished. This one I did when this is a self-portrait that I did when I was applying to that program, and this is based off of a project that Gutterman does pretty frequently, like the Ugly Face project, where you take a picture and you do a self-portrait from that. This one I also made in studio art. This was last year, and this is like a series of images I did. This is ink wash, so watered down ink, and then pen and ink on top of it. And these are all pictures of this tree at my grandparents' house on Long Island, and a bird that my grandfather had for a long time. So that's just kind of, we did that for a project about one specific tree last year at the beginning of the year. And you want to do this one? And this was a still life that I did at the Cooper Union project that I worked on for 10 hours, and it was in pencil, and it was just kind of a setup in the middle of the room, and it had a bunch of different things going on, but specifically these dried flowers, which were pretty difficult to work on. But this is another thing with, trying to look at how the light interacts with things. So yeah, that's what I have.
My name is Kimberly Zog, but people call me Kim. I'm a senior, and I mainly do sketches. Well, it was mainly just a natural thing that came to me. I think maybe the fact that my dad was artistically inclined inspired me to, get into it. And I can't remember when I did get into it because I was really young, so that's why I think it was just kind of like an instinct to start creating things. I'll take pictures of myself to draw from, and sometimes I think I'll look like really bad. And it's also, it's difficult because like I see myself every single day, like in the mirror and stuff, so if like one thing is out of line, like it doesn't look right, I guess, so it's hard to tell myself that it's still fine. So yeah, this is the ugly face drawing. Well, I took a ton of pictures in the dark for this, and the reason why I chose it is because like I feel like it has like a fear aspect to it, because the whole purpose of doing this was to have like kind of like a dark background and then have like little white parts, and so I wanted to make it have like kind of like a dark tone to it, because like when I look at this now, it looks like I'm almost like running from something, and I just wanted to have like a vibe if I was going to be creating something that's like dark, because I don't normally do something on like a dark medium. So first drawing I did in this sketchbook that I got, there's really no inspiration for it. I just thought it looked trippy and practice it. Like I wanted to practice faces and like hands and just like different kind of styles. This one, I'm mainly focusing on like the ugly faces here. I'm usually so used to drawing like pretty faces like this one here. And I kind of wanted to just change it up a little bit and draw like one of the ugly selfies that I took just to like stray from that like perfection like that I continued to do over and over again. I think this is kind of going in line with like the whole, you know, drawing like perfect faces, because obviously this person looks very, very pretty. I also want to focus on like the shading and stuff. Like I'm moving more into like smooth shading, like smudging it out. And I left the hair blank because I'm just way too lazy to draw hair. This one, okay. This one's my favorite because it looks really funny. And I originally drew it for my English teacher because she said that her daughter wanted like a drawing of like a pig that could fly for some reason. And I ended up not giving it to her because she drew it herself. So I was like, okay, I'll just keep it. This one is a dragon that I did. And hold on. This one, this page has expletives on it. This page? Is that English? Okay. This is a dragon that I did because I just really like dragons, so that's that. Okay, and this one I drew because I wanted to start like practicing like water, you know, like teardrops and everything, and it kind of goes along with like the smoothness of the shading. This one, just meant to be trippy. No really reason for it. And this one's meant to be trippy as well. It's based off of like, you know, days where I'm just like out of it because I space out a lot. So I want to draw like how that felt, almost like my mind is like a cloud.
I'm Kylie, I'm a senior, and I mostly paint. I drew a lot when I was younger. I liked it like as like just a hobby when I was little. And then I took a few years off in the beginning of high school, and I started taking art classes again sophomore year. Last year I did a series that I really liked, and it was all planets. And there's an album that I listened to from an artist called Sleeping at Last, and all the music is like space themed, which sounds a little...
Yeah, and the original Freddie was in there, but then they broke.
It sounds a little weird, but it's so pretty. So I did paintings like themed around each of the songs, which I really liked. They all have like a common theme, I guess. They have like the lyrics in white and then the planets. It was definitely difficult making like the contrast work because it was hard to make them look realistic, I guess. All very much the same. Like they're coming in different compositions, different sizes and shapes. So that was a good way to make it feel like I wasn't doing the same thing over and over again. I mean, I hadn't really been into painting as much before. So doing this definitely helped me get a better sense of like how to work with paint. This year I've gotten into embroidery, which has been really fun as just a way to kind of take a break from like the specifics, I guess, of painting.
Serena Anucci. I'm a senior. I would say a lot of like pen and marker, but also like paint. Those are my main two. When I was a kid, I really liked art, but I think I started like really taking it a little bit more seriously, like beginning to middle of junior year. I have my sketchbook, and then I have a couple hands from like a series I've done. The hand started with this one. I was just like having a rough night, and I was kind of bored, so I just drew a hand because I knew I needed like practice because the hands are kind of hard to draw. So I just went for like a simpler approach, and then I kept going, and I ended up really liking the way it came out. So then I continued, and I kept making more, and I kind of like tried to correlate like each like hand has a word that correlates to like I guess what it's doing. In my sketchbook, I was too scared to put anything on the first page, so I think once I finish the sketchbook, maybe I'll put something on the first page, or maybe it'll stay blank. So the first thing I have in here is her. I don't really like using like natural skin tones. I like using a lot of like blue and red. So she's blue. This was just like a test page. I just have like some dumb doodles on there. A lot of my pages are like this. This is a similar thing. This we called Julia Fruity Boy for a bit, so that's why that's there. This was pages that I painted over. A lot of the pages that are like just like scribbles and stuff that I don't really love, I end up painting over. So just some good old blues and greens. You can kind of see like what was underneath it. Some French, a flower. I think this was the first set of pages that I painted over, and then I went back with like a white paint pen and just added some patterns. This, another painted page. There's like some text, and it's excerpts from poems by Charles Bukowski. I really like his poetry. A lot of it's kind of depressing, but it's good. More painted pages. That's kind of what I do. Yeah, I really like, I mean, not a lot of it is in here, but blue and red are like my two big colors right now, so red, blue. And then I like, you know, the little white lines around. I have that on another page. This one is really fun to run your hand over. I just like cut up other pieces of painted paper and glued them on there. I think there was like some other stuff under here at some point. I really like calligraphy too, so I have some of that in there. I'm still working on it. It's hard. A lot of this is like fake calligraphy, like more like lettering. You know, I try and use like dip pens and stuff too, but I'm not that great at it. I love this page because it looks like a big strawberry to me, like all spread out. That's a favorite. I like this one. Gutterman told me all about hexagons, and you know, it's fun. I have a cutout, and then there's like the bee on the next page, so that's fun. I like these. There was like some calligraphy underneath you can kind of see, and then I just painted over it. This is one of my favorite pages because it's like more hands, so it's obviously like a reference to the creation of Adam, Michelangelo, and it bled through a lot. So then I painted the next page, but I ended up hating it. But this is one of my favorites. It kind of goes with these, but I feel like it's like it's a little bit different in its own way. It's like a piece of This one's one of my favorites. I went on a little journey with my friends, and I felt like I just kind of realized that I'll always end up alone, which is a little depressing, but it ended up being one of my favorites. And then the last two things I have in here are from like a couple days ago, and then today I just did this heart. So.
It's really awesome. Okay. My name's Julian. I'm a senior, and I don't know. I do like a lot of, like a little bit of everything. I first started like actually getting into art in freshman year, but like for as long as I can remember, I was always like, I like to draw. I like to. My sketchbook. I have like some sketches, some paintings in here. This was inspired by a song. I can't remember the song. This I never finished. It was also inspired by a song. These are some dogs that Phoebe and I drew. We got bored in math, and I think they're really funny. This is a little like perspective drawing of just a room, and then I covered something up and I drew like kind of inspired by Impression Sunrise, but also kind of not really. These are just some doodles. This is from a place called Hawkeye Sanctuary. It's It's basically just a bird sanctuary, and I took a picture of like these wheat things next to a fence, so I drew it. This is just some paint. I like the colors. These are isosceles triangles. I thought it was like, I actually learned this from a YouTube video, how like you can put together like the triangles and it'll like curl around, like they start to curl around and you can manipulate them to go like certain ways. This is a little sketch. This is some, I don't even know. It was fun. This is a little like Starry Night thing.
I need to find something that I've done or you've been adding.
These are some dogs. I actually like really like these guys. They're kind of like chubby, cute.
Oh wait, Spider-Man.
This is a Canada man from Canada. I don't know what he does, but I found it when I was collaging, so I just stuck with it. This was inspired by a WFMU episode where this lady went on a rant about like finding a toe in a bag, in like a hospital bag on the side of the street. So I got bored. This was also inspired by a radio thing. She has like people scream over the phone and they like go off. This is just some doodles. I like to draw these. These are some dogs. This is a bear and a cave and a waterfall. I tried to do it all in one color. Oh no! I tried to do it all in one color and then like do shading with like purple. This is just like me playing with, we have this like transfer paper that's like shiny, and if you glue it down and like let it dry, sometimes it will come up and it leaves like the print on it. Oh, these are some of my almond pie. I enjoy drawing these guys. They're really funny. This is also me playing with that paper. This is another octopus. This is a big ring This was never finished, but this was inspired by a famous painting. I forget what it's called. But they're like reaching out to each other. There's some dogs. I think I like drawing dogs. This is just a little like field with some flowers.
Is there anything in here that I can like photocopy? Maybe?
This was my drafts for my op art piece. I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do, so I started like doing like kind of a tunnel thing, and then I tried to like move on to like a line thing with like a dent or like a river. And then I was like, oh, maybe I'll like make a little space and like put a snake on it, but I eventually never did any of those. These are just some doodles. I really like flowers. These are also some doodles. These are some like little animals. This guy's playing the piano. This guy's playing the drums. And this is part of my cloud studies. I've been trying to like make these little cloud pieces. So I was like experimenting with acrylics at this time, but I think I like the wash better. So that's those. This one's in progress. It's not done yet. And along with the painting, I made these little cabin pieces. So there's this one. It's got like a nice red house, some purple trim, and there's a guy on a boat. This is mainly like inspired by the Impressionist movement, but kind of not. This is also one of my little cabins. Just in the snow, some dead trees. And then going back to my collage. This is the collage.
A little more, like, okay, yeah, that's good enough.
So I didn't really know what I was going to do for this collage. It kind of just started out as like, oh, maybe I'll cut out some mountains and some animals, and then it evolved into this.
My name is Henry Schnatter. That would be a freshman year when I really started like getting into the program and all. Well, in this painting right here, I have a Rembrandt painting that I copied from one of Mr. Gutterman's books. And I also have a Picasso painting that I also copied, which is a very famous self-portrait that he did. Well, with artists like Picasso, it's not too hard, but with guys like Rembrandt, it's pretty hard. I just really like those types of artists. I think their art is pretty cool. Okay, so anyway, I have this scary face that I did, and here's some of the paintings I did myself. Here's a gargoyle that's crying a little bit. And here's a very famous iconic horror character. This is Freddy Krueger. Some do. Like, I like it as well. And yeah, all that kind of stuff. And last year I was really into wrestling. I still am. And here's a very famous wrestler, Stone Cold Steve Austin. He was pretty cool like back then, and like very like iconic, like legend in WWE, one of them at least. Always humiliated his boss, Vince McMahon, on TV. I don't know, like maybe like still working on like how to paint a little more realistically and like look at the picture, look at more detail and stuff like that. Oh, and right now I'm working on this is sort of a more darker Freddy Krueger from a film I saw called Wes Craven's New Nightmare, where it's about this like, can I explain the movie? Yeah, go ahead. It's about this ancient demon trying to break into the real world. So it's doing it by taking his form, Freddy Krueger's form. So it's not really him though.
Oh wow, all right, I'm Savannah Riley. I'm in 12th grade and wow, I dabble with everything. I'm going into graphic design, so I'm probably gonna be doing a lot of digital. My mom was an artist, so I grew up behind her chair. She actually did fine tile work, so I like perched up behind her and watched as much as I could, and then it just like escalated where I was drawing in my notebooks and like I couldn't control it, and now I can control it. So I do art whenever I can. I really do like the eye piece. I did that my sophomore year in drawing one. It was actually my first class with Mr. Gutterman, and I just like, I had a lot of fun doing it. I'm not really a dark person, but I wanted something that, you know what, it's visible across the room, yet like still has a message to it, so. Where are my homeless people? I also did this my sophomore year. I blind contoured images off the internet. It was for the Students Concerned for the Needy. They had an art show, and Mr. Stevens asked me to do a piece, and I actually did this one, and I don't know, it was just like, it came to me. It was easy to do. That's the best art, I believe. I think just looking at things in general, it's based off of how you really look at what you are doing art of, and like if you can see the right image in it and like pick out the right colors, like you really can't alter what nature already has laid out for you. Like it will look wrong and synthetic. Like you want to make it look natural as possible. So, oh wow. So I do smaller pieces. I like doing line work a lot. I'll hold it up. This one up here, I do like the Grateful Dead a lot. So that's like the American Beauty, and I did that with a micron pen. So that took forever. That took like 3 weeks, but I'm really happy with it came out. And then the alien, mind blown, and the face. I actually started drawing my mom's face, like a little aged. I don't know, she's a muse of mine. I love my mom. So it just like, I really enjoy art if it flows. I feel like it's important to be well-rounded in different mediums, but I like to explore as much as I can.
What about your digital work?
Oh yeah, so I started dabbling this year actually. I wanted to go into business originally, and that just wasn't me. I had an epiphany where I was just like, I enjoy art, and why make my job harder while I can enjoy something and make money off of it. So my first piece is actually Kurt Cobain from Nirvana with the clout glasses.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I the way I perfected it, trying to be humble, but I just felt magnetic towards the computer after that, and just kept dabbling, doing Lizzie McGuire, because classic, and just I really just enjoy doing multiple mediums of art.
In your future, do you feel like you'll do more product-based digital art?
I think so. I would love to go into the music industry where I would do album covers and album sleeves, because I teach music and I have a really well-rounded background in that too, and I feel with my connections so far I can go into that industry steadily.
Mackenzie O'Brien, I'm a senior. Art form I work most with, I usually just draw, sketches and such, maybe a little painting. Well, I've pretty much been doing art since day one. When I was little, it would obviously just be little drawings and stuff that you'd have to do for class, but I also really enjoy drawing outside of class, and that eventually grew into just me constantly doing art. It's little stuff. This is just palette paper.
What inspires you to make some of these things?
Just stuff I see. This one's from a song, so song lyrics sometimes, or nothing. This one's just squares. Yeah, I mean, some of these are drawings that I did for the Fanscotian, and sometimes when you got a lot on your mind, the more chaotic ones are kind of more of when that happens. So that one, this one, for example, it's just random scribbling, when you're frustrated or something like that. It's how you get your feelings out, you know? Some of these, what was it, back here, this one is Emma Torkelson. I have other ones. There's another one as well.
I like the aesthetic of using the paint.
This one. This is her. A lot of the weird sayings that she says, I will sometimes draw.
As is Emma.
Yeah, as is Emma. I mean, some of them, this stuff is more line work, but a lot of the time, I'll try to work with shadows, with this more, and sometimes it'll be shading, getting the smooth gradient, and other times it'll be more like lines that make up the shading. I have some stuff in here for it. Well, the pen and the line shading is easier, I guess. But if I want something that is gonna take longer, I'll more likely go with the smoother gradient.
So it's more of a preference sort of
thing. It's all changing. I did one earlier today that I thought was fine. This one, I think, is pretty good. Don't wake the gnomes. I think that was another conversation with a friend that it came up. That's chaos, all right. This is just from palette paper with dried paint. And then this is just me wanting to play with glue.
Oh, so you do get a bit of mixed media in there.
Yeah. Where is it? Let me try to find the one that I was talking about. Chaos.
Any final piece you want to announce with?
This one. And then, here, wait, let me show. This is the one that I was working on today, which I thought was fine.
Oh, that's really cool. It's like a mix of the shading
The
and
two,
line shading.
yeah. So I guess that kind of sums up my art style in one picture.
My name is Christy Serini. I'm a senior and mainly I work with just graphite pencils. I've been doing it my whole life. My mom's an artist, so it's kind of always been around my house and she always kind of motivated me to do it. So as soon as I could hold a pencil in my hand, I started drawing and eventually I decided I wanted to take it more seriously. So she gave me a few pointers and then I just kind of took off from there. I'm one of those people that it takes a long time for me to get like artistically motivated to do something. So just getting over that like initial hump is difficult, but after that I pretty much smooth sailing from there. But I always want everything to be perfect, so it's hard when I make a mistake and then I have to adapt to that. So that's always frustrating, but I always tend to get past it. So most of my stuff I don't really use color that often. I really like black and white and like everything. Like when I take pictures, I like taking pictures in black and white. And so also I love like small detail type things. So this one took me a while. I initially did it on a piece of paper and decided I wanted to try and do it even bigger. So I don't really know what inspired me to do this one. I just kind of saw something similar to it and decided I wanted to put my own spin on it. And so it's just lots of lines and circles, and I really like the way this one came out. It reminds me of like some type of like geode thing. And then my Gumby dollar was the first project in studio art this year, and there's a lot of hidden items in it, which I really like doing a lot. I've done that in a lot of my other pieces where I'll throw in things so that you really have to look at it to find those fine details. So that's something I like to implement a lot in my work. And so there's a lot of different things in there, like obviously Gumby, there's a couple dolls in there, there's a button, a stuffed animal, there's a watch in there somewhere, right? You could see that, plants, stuff like that, but lots of fine little details, which I really enjoy. And then my scary face, which was really challenging for me. I had a hard time with this project because I've never used charcoal before and I didn't like the mess that it produced, but I think it turned out pretty well considering it's a medium I've never used before, and I think it's different than stuff I normally do, so I'm happy that I was able to go out of my comfort zone and kind of create that. And then my most recent one, which I just finished earlier, is I've had this jacket for so long, wanted something to do with it, but couldn't figure out what I wanted to do. Started doing something on it and hated it, and then threw it in my closet for like half a year. And then I just pulled it out and decided I wanted to do some type of op art stuff, which is along the lines of what I enjoy doing as well with the black and white. So I like this one, it's different, it's a different medium. Usually I'm just on paper, so it's nice to switch it up.
I'm Rachel, and I'm in 11th grade. I'm a junior, and I work with generally all art forms, but I stick to colored pencil mostly. I've been drawing since I was a little kid. My dad was really involved with art, so it definitely kept me involved with art throughout my entire life, but I really started working with faces and stuff around last year. I think the most complicated part is just getting the expression right, because just like little tiny changes can change the whole expression of their face. My favorites is the record, just because it took so long, and it was just like this random idea I had, like, oh, it would be so cool if I painted on a record, and yeah. Okay, so all my work is generally inspired by the band 21 Pilots, just because they really inspire me, and I like their lyrics and I like their music, so that's most of my art. And yeah, so it's all like inspired by songs or just pictures that I like. One was inspired off of a music video, and generally most of them I just like find a picture that I like and then I go from there like with my ideas. So there's really no specific story to each one, it's just where my mind goes. Embroidery I started doing just because I thought it was really cool. My mom was really into it for a while, so I started doing that. And I really didn't do much of it just because it's so expensive to buy thread and the fabric to put it on. So I mainly just stick to colored pencil and painting. And this is I got for a birthday present. I was trying to figure out what to do with them. So I came up with a hand idea and it just went from there. I thought, oh, using string on canvas would be really cool as well. I just try to like do a bunch of different things, as different as I can be. Yeah.
Stop.
My name's Tommy Ryan. I'm a junior, and my work kind of goes from really like skulls and space and stuff like that. And I take a lot of inspiration from comic books and rock music and stuff like that. So yeah, ever really since I could hold a pencil, I've been drawing like non-stop. I remember like all the way back in like kindergarten, I would be doodling on my worksheets, and that hasn't really changed today. Like you can open my binder and it'll just be covered in, you know, Wolverines and skulls and stuff like that. I don't know, I feel like my mind is always like preoccupied on like making art like nonstop. This is Should we redo that? No. This is what I'm currently working on. I take a lot of inspiration from like early 1900s art and stuff like that. It's just like I call it a skeletal cocktail party, and I just really like the atmosphere that I'm creating with this one, and hopefully everybody else likes it when it's finished. This is my oh my god. It's like a Johnny Blaze kind of transforming into the Ghost Rider, and I took a lot of inspiration from Michelangelo's sketches that I have in this big book at my house, and yeah, these two are really like my main bodies of work. Like it encaptures like what I'm really interested in, and what I find I can paint the best. And then these are just kind of like sketches that I've done throughout the year. This is like a celestial being kind of floating in space, and spaceman floating in space, and then a bunch of monsters and stuff like that.
Time. It spirals and it rocks, it tightens and it drops, it ends and it begins. But like many know, it doesn't even exist. We wait for it every day, for things to be better, for things to get worse, or to quench our dire thirst, for moments in time to be forever. So we trap ourselves in our phones and our games, anything that will help us feel more or less insane, driving ourselves to be and do the impossible. Not saying that time is a bad thing. It has so much love and epic things that hold us to be one, that keeps us growing and developing into new versions of ourselves.
Alright, I'm Russell. I was one of the editors for this video. I work in both digital and traditional mediums for art. This project was definitely like, it was fun. It was also stressful sometimes because managing like a class, not managing, but just like having to do 20 interviews at a time while getting like the artwork. That's a lot of work. No, yeah, but like even from the pictures that I have, like out of all the ones that I have, it's like I definitely try to mix it up. Like I work in pencil, like different pencil shadings, or sometimes when I'm on more digital pieces, I'll work very colorful and like not light, but very colorful, and like there's a lot of difference between the colors. Recently been doing like color shading with the lighting. That's been fun. It's weird going between digital and traditional mediums because digital will be so much different. It's like a mistake can turn into something that maybe looks better. On the other hand, there could be like little complications within each layer that you're using. It's also good for graphic design. Make like little stickers, which I was going to do that at the art show, but got there day late and I just gave those out. I'm thinking about either going on to illustration or graphic design. I think I'm leaning more towards illustration because that can be both traditional and digital. It's like it's hard to say which one I like more because that's changed within the year. Like at the beginning of the year I used to like traditional, towards the middle, or no. At the beginning of the year I used to like digital more, but then towards like the middle of the year I started to lean more towards traditional, especially when I had to do like 4 really high quality traditional pieces in like a month for some of my portfolios. So that was stressful, but it was also really fun because like, I don't know, it's hard to describe why drawing and why art is fun. Some people just like it to create, others people like it to
I think Michaela said it best. In her interview, she was like, some people do it because of their feelings, some people do it because they like the process. I created it just because it's fun.
Yeah, that's like a huge thing. So I remember like, there's so many different ways that people interpret art. For me, I am more of like on the design aspect of it. I kind of like just like creating things. I like making cool, cute things like that. And like when I went to the National Portfolio Day, I remember going up to the Parsons guy, and he said that more of your pieces should maybe like should convey like how you feel about certain things, and maybe about like politics or something like that. I'm like, no, that's not really what I like though. I'm more of like the design and traditional. Not traditional, the design type.
Yeah.
Art's like, it's always kind of been in my life. I just didn't really realize it until high school. Because that's like, because that's when you start like thinking about jobs, and I was like, you know what, art would be fun. And it'd be a job that's like sitting in a cubicle all day, working for Bank of America.
Hopefully this still rings true in 20 years, but I hope to run for president in 2037. So vote for me if you're seeing this video. Bye.
Laugh with me, buddy, jest with me, buddy. Don't let her get the best of me, buddy. Don't ever let me start feeling lonely.